Friends, welcome into another edition of Soccer Texas. I'm Alex Parra. Beside me, you see him right away. There's no need to have a large, lengthy introduction. We welcome Houston Dynamo President of Soccer, Mr. Pat Onstad. First of all, Pat, good day, good morning. You know, people watch us at different times. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a busy off season, but I'm doing fine.
Pat, let's start with where we are in transitioning, ending one MLS season and starting another one. Clearly not the way you wanted the 2025 season to go. What happens? We're about to play an MLS Cup final, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But what is the organization doing to prepare for what's next? I imagine it's looking at players, it's looking at many things that make up this puzzle.
Yeah, I think, when I got here in 22, we did a really good job of building a team up for 23, 24. And then going through Mikel dos Santos and Coco Carrasquilla, two kind of record transfers back to back, moving on from Hector Herrera, we became a team a little bit in transition. And I think we've talked about this a little bit. I think last year, the big one we didn't replace was Mikel dos Santos, and we finally brought in Antonio Carlos. It was probably too late for the season. So that's probably the big mistake for the club. Having said that, this year, we're able to kind of move on from a lot of guys who are part of those successful 2 years. And now we're, looking to add, somewhere between 4 and 5 impact players. And when I say impact players, we like them all to be starters. Yes, some of them might be guys that fight for minutes with Andres Linger or Felipe Andrade and these guys. But at the end of the day, we need to be a better team next year, and that's what we've been busy doing here in the offseason.
There are different ways to talk about a transition one year to the next. I think in the world of sports, not only professional, Pat, but college sports, we're seeing it more often. There's change. Change, I think, is part of any entity's reality. Do you call it rebuilding? Do you call it? Is there a word that fits where the Houston Dynamo are? Is that a fair question?
Maybe last year we should have done a better job maybe of messaging like what the season could have turned into. But in the end, we were close enough that had we probably got the center back thing right, Eric Shevchenko, had he stayed healthier, we probably could have snuck in the playoffs. Were we going to be a team that won a trophy like we did in 23? Probably not. But at least there could have been some hope and move forward. So I'll take responsibility for that, not getting the right players in the right position. We didn't have a ton of cap space. We also knew that.
Right.
This year, on the other hand, like last year, we went into the offseason, we had the least GAM out of anyone in the league, the GAM and TAM. We were really tight. We really only had one move to make. This year, it's almost the exact opposite. We're, I think, fourth most in TAM and GAM availability and essentially cap space. So there's a lot of things we can do. We have the flexibility with the roster, whether it's add two more DPs and another couple of U22s, 3 U22s and 1 DP. We have some flexibility in terms of what we're going to look for. So we're excited going into this offseason. We have a lot of change, but I don't want to call it rebuilding because I actually think we have a good core group of players. And we're not that far away from being a team that can go fight for trophies. So that's our goal this year.
Pat, the MLS Cup is coming up. The final is coming up. Miami, Vancouver, two opposites. Messi, Muller. What is that the trend that to get to an MLS Cup final you need to have a huge name like the two that I mentioned?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm stopping you. Sorry.
No. You're perfect. No, you got my.
I'm going to interrupt you again. This is me. Sorry, I'm mansplaining now. I'm sorry. No, I think I look at Vancouver. I like the way they built their team. They've built that team over about 3 years. Slow and methodical. Yeah. I think we can do it a lot faster because we're only a year away removed from a very good team. But what they've done is they've waited. It had a great start to the season. Eliminated Miami over 2 legs in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And now as they came close to the summer window, and they're like, okay, let's get a Thomas Muller to push us over the top. It's a cherry on top. A little different than Miami, who was a disaster, and said, okay, let's bring in Messi,
right,
and then we'll build. And it's taken a long time for them to build a solid team. I think that these, to me, are the 2 best teams in the league playing in the final, which doesn't always happen in our league. Yeah. So it's nice to see. And I think it's interesting because I think Vancouver plays an unbelievable style. They keep the ball, they possess it no matter how you press. And they're a team that are built to possibly beat Miami. Like, they can keep the ball. It'll be an interesting final.
Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Prediction, or you're just gonna say it's a good final?
I don't know. I have a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, part of me also goes, okay, they've invested a lot in Messi, best player ever
Sure.
that I've ever seen in my life, and it'd be nice to see him hoist a MLS Cup. At the same token, I'm from Vancouver, so I've got a little bit of stake in the game, and also nice to see a Canadian team and the way they built their team and the way they play it's really nice to watch. It's certainly the type of style of play that we're building towards, and certainly the way when we're rolling, we keep the ball like they do. We build out of pressure. We shift teams side to side and try to break them down, and we really respect the way they play. They press well after a loss. So I think it's a really intriguing final.
Pat, those in Canada may not be happy with your latest comment. Come on, you got to cheer for the hometown, don't you?
We'll see. I just don't want to go on the record. We'll see.
I understand.
I might have my Canadian jersey
well,
on.
And actually, it will bring, having one of these superstars hoist the MLS Cup only adds to the tradition that, of course, you've been a part of. So, but Pat, I get this question a lot. Why isn't Messi in Houston? Why isn't Thomas Muller in Houston? Why didn't David Beckham come to Houston? I don't know. There are so many variables. I can imagine financially, leadership, different owners over time. Why is Messi not in Houston? Is that even, what would it take for that to be a reality? Is that a fair question?
I mean, you'd have to ask Mr. Messi about that one. I think
that's part of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we attracted. I would have argued at the time. Certainly, probably one of the more popular, if not the most popular at the time, with Hector Herrera here, and he came for 2.5 years, and we got a year and a half or a year and a bit of great service out of him. In the end, that didn't really tip the needle for our club outside of winning a championship and guys having confidence. Made us a much better team. I'm not arguing against that. But I think the relevancy is a big piece of in all this. Vancouver had slowly built this thing up, and Muller's been able to kind of push them over the top. I think Lionel Messi kind of rescued a franchise that was in disarray early on in their existence, and is now obviously has been a flagstone. I mean, Lionel Messi is maybe a different animal than a Thomas Muller. I think that Thomas Muller's. If we can keep going, we know from Ted that's the profile. If we find the right time, I'm a big believer that I'd rather not bring in a Thomas Muller and then try to figure out the rest of the roster. I'd rather have a roster and then say, okay, I'm not saying Thomas Muller, but that type, and throw him in and say, this is the guy that'll push us over the edge. So we're looking at that. I mean, Hector was our first swing, and I would say, it was pretty successful for a year or so. And it's not something that we're going to shy away from if we find the right player at the right time that'll fit our club. And Ted Siegel, our owner, has been certainly behind us if the right opportunity comes, that we push forward with it.
With us, President of Soccer for the Houston Dynamo, Mr. Pat Onstad. Pat, as we are transitioning from one season to another, MLS continues to also be flexible, recognizing that a calendar change is part of the future of the league. Talk to us about that piece of it, and what does that mean relative to preparing, relative to signing contracts? I think being in line with the rest of the world has its benefits.
Yeah, certainly from my perspective, I've gone on the record on this for a while, saying that I think it would be a great move for our league. I do think we need something, and our commissioner, I think, has done a really good job of setting this league up to be successful and sustainably be successful. But at some point, I think we all recognize that we've got to align with the rest of the world if we want to keep making strides forward as a league. So I think making this move helps us in terms of buying and selling players. We'll be able to compete in the marketplace. It's really difficult this time of year as we're learning. We're trying to bring very good players in. And as our league gets better and better, you're going to, unless you're going to the Premier League, which they're not making big sales, they're small, their window there's not a ton of things going on. You're trying to go to an Austria or Denmark or whatever, and you're trying to pull their best players from their clubs right in the middle of their season, which is what's been happening to our league. I can't say it's happened to us specifically, but I know there's lots of CSOs in our league that in June and July they're getting these offers for their players, and the CSOs are throwing their hands up saying, we can't sell you now. We're about to head into our final stretch in the playoffs. So I think aligning will help a lot in recruitment. And then I think for us in Houston, a lot of this that will help will actually be, instead of fans having to sit in 98-degree heat and humidity in July, they'll actually be able to come in. Last weekend, for example, I remember I was looking at my phone at 7:30 at night on Saturday. It was 68 degrees. Thanksgiving weekend. I go, what a fantastic day that would have been for a home game in Houston. You would have on a Thanksgiving weekend. It would have been amazing. So I think for us, that'll also help with our stadium as well.
In this transition, obviously, a big piece of it is the World Cup coming next year. We have a draw coming up here, Pat, literally days away. How do you see the draw in general? And we don't have to get into the details, but how that and this process and this event coming to Mexico, Canada, and the United States is an opportunity, not only for the league, but for the Houston Dynamo to get more interest, more support in a very competitive sports market, as you've discussed in the past, that is Houston.
Yeah, I think this draw is going to be amazing to find out who's coming here and what are the teams that we're going to get an opportunity to see, or at least have a good idea who, certainly in the next round of 32 and 16, I believe the two games are. But it'll be really interesting to see what teams come, and I think we're excited for that as a club, because some of those teams will be all right. Now our city is going to be able to see these superstars, and are any of these guys good fits for us as well? So I think that's one piece that's interesting. I think secondly, as you'd mentioned, how do we become a major player when the World Cup comes through? There were 7 games over 37 days. So one of the things we've been talking about discussing is do we train at our stadium for a while so that the fans that are here in the city can come down and watch us train, can see the level of our team, get to actually meet our players. I think we've done a relatively good job of getting our players out there and here with the media that are following this. But I think after this draw on Friday, this is when it's gonna ramp up pretty quick. So it'll be interesting to see how much that we can build off of the World Cup momentum.
That momentum, I think, also translates, if I'm not mistaken, the World Cup, the Houston World Cup initiative is talking about also the legacy that a World Cup will leave in town. And what that means to the youth side, to all soccer in general. How is the organization, Pat, working with the World Cup committee relative to common ground, common goals, which is growing the sport, I imagine?
Yeah, it's probably a bigger question for our president with Jessica O'Neill on that. I'm not saying I'm out of the loop, but in terms of having an influence on that side of it, I'm not as involved. I'm more in the soccer operations one. But I do know that we are getting involved and getting out there with the community and helping they're trying to restore a lot of fields in the city. And we are part of that program. So for me to kind of comment a ton on it, I'm a little behind the knowledge tree, so to speak.
You're kind of busy, Pat, so I do understand.
Yeah, I'm
trying.
I'm trying to. I don't want to be the jack of all trades and master of none. I'd rather make sure that we're getting our team right.
You're looking at one right here, Pat. So let me tell you. Well, what I wanted to connect was the youth side. I know that you, since arriving and taking on this role, are very conscious of the past of the organizations.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You're very conscious of the past of what the Houston Dynamo Youth Club was and the way it had, in my opinion, a negative impact on the community. Yep. How is that piece of it going? Meaning, how does the academy continue to grow? How are the relationships with local clubs? I believe, and I'm sure the organization is aware of this, that the youth side and having that support for both the Dynamo and the Dash is crucial.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think you hit it on the head. I think us being in the youth space and competing with other youth clubs, well, it was a bit of a disaster. I think it it caused some ill feeling in the community. And I still think there are some clubs out there that feel like we're still part of that, which we are not.
Right.
We run 4 academy teams that are not pay to play. These kids are fully funded academies, and that's all we have, and that's our only kind of toe in the youth space. And our hope, and we've touched on this a little bit in the past, is our hope is eventually we start developing guys that are going to have significant influence with our first team, and that's when. We were actually just talking with a marketing group, and we were saying, like, that's our vision for the club, that the city can get behind people and players and go, I remember that kid when he was 12 years old and he was playing against my kid. Now look at him. He's starting for the Dynamo. That's amazing. So we got a lot. We still have a ways to go there. I wouldn't say a long way. I think we've made a lot of progress. One thing we're really proud of is our second team the last 2 years. We've significantly played the most academy minutes of any team in MLS Next Pro, to the tune of, I think almost this year was almost double the next team. And we think that will help our group and give those young kids exposure and an opportunity to go on. And if it doesn't happen that they go on with the Dynamo, it'll expose them there at a professional level, that hopefully there's other opportunities for them out there as well. So we want to be able to see people look at our academy and say, okay, that's a pro pathway for us, whether it's with the Dynamo or, USL or going to Mexico or going abroad. But it's a clear pathway for them to become professional soccer players.
You mentioned the USL, you mentioned other leagues. I believe that in part because of the World Cup, that a lot of leagues are preparing for what's next. Does having more competition, Pat, to the MLS at a first division, at a second and third divisions, is that good for the sport? There's 2 arguments that I hear. Having more of this dilutes what we are trying to accomplish as a soccer country. The other is no, there's more opportunity for many players in many leagues under different circumstances. Your thoughts on that one?
I haven't heard the dilute one. I actually think the more opportunities for guys to make a career at soccer and be able to train on a regular basis, on a daily basis. I can say my professional path. I remember I played in the Canadian Soccer League. Yeah. We were still training at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening. We would train 3 days a week and play quote unquote professional games. That was my professional experience. That's not professional soccer. Yeah. There's probably a reason why I played till my 40s, because I probably didn't peak until my mid 20s, and I should have been peaking when I was 18 years old, so, but I had to get those hours up. Now, I think there's more opportunity. In the end, the cream will rise to the top.
Agreed.
Every coach, every GM, we want to put the best team possible on the field that's going to compete. So if kids are good enough, they'll come through and they will play for us. And if anything, we want to be a club, and it's certainly the way we want to operate, is that we want to give chances to young American and Houstonians specifically to get an opportunity to succeed. And we're close. Again, like I said, we're not there yet, so we're not proud. We're not pumping our chests and saying, look what we've done. We haven't done anything yet. Well, once we start doing it, we'll be the first to step out there and tell you how great we are.
Pat, you have been great about getting out in the media. You've been great about putting in the time and as they say, as a good politician, shaking hands and kissing babies. And I've seen more initiatives from players like Eric that want to be in the community, that have a message. Is more of that coming? And you've talked about
I hope
this.
So.
Yeah.
Alex, I've talked about it. I absolutely hope so. It's certainly been a push. It's been a big ask for the front office, and they know this is kind of one of our ways that we're trying to go. So I really hope we do that. The players have been told, and they know they're going to be part of it. And to your point, there are players here that love going to the community. And I think, I tell a story about when I was a kid, and I was the influence that a professional athlete has on a fan, a young fan, is astronomical. I used to go to the Vancouver Whitecaps. My dad was from Saskatchewan, my mom, not a sports fan, but we'd go to the Vancouver Whitecaps back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And after the game, I would race down to the bottom, hop a fence, elude a security guy, run on the field with a notebook, and get a signature on
Carl Valentine, is that one of them?
Yeah, Carl Valentine, Bob Belitho,
Did Lenarduzzi play for the Vancouver?
Bob Lenarduzzi.
Yeah.
And I would get an autograph. And for me, when I would do that, like that for that week, Bob Belitho, Carl Valentine, Bob Lenarduzzi, my favorite player. But there's probably a reason why I'm still in soccer at 57 years old. like these moments and the connections,
Yeah.
and those make lifelong fans and a connection to the club. And so when you say who am I going to cheer for in the final? Well, I think I just kind of like revealed my cards. But my point being is there's always that connection, and I think it's so important for our club. And I think we did a great job of it when we first moved here from San Jose in '06. And I think, we did a really good job, but we kind of lost our way a little bit. And it's certainly going to, will be a focus this year to make sure we get back out there. And the Eric Shevchenkos, the Griffin Dorseys,
Yeah.
these guys love being out in the community and they know the value of it. Ethan Bartlow, who's no longer with us, but was a guy that was out there a lot. And what they realize is the people want to meet you and you have a connection, and it makes you feel good as a human being. You feel like you're contributing and making people feel good about themselves and in the team. So, sorry, I'm getting a little going. You can tell my passion on my part, but I'm a big believer in this, and I think it's something that as a club, we, as you said, that's a big sports market. We're not the Texans, we're not the Rockets, we're not the Astros, but we're competing for those dollars, but we are an accessible team, and I think that's our advantage. That's our opportunity where these other teams, it's difficult to get those guys out and connect with the community. So that's something that we have to do a better job of.
No, that's fantastic, Pat. Pat, where's the balance between catering to the community, meaning I'm sure you wish you had a local player that had a history here, number one, and fielding a competitive team. There has to exist a balance, right? You can have players coming in from the outside, but I'm sure you would love nothing more than a homegrown player that played high school here, played around here in college, and is playing home, if you will. That's finding that diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I don't know if it's diamond in the rough. I think it's us keep at the process. I think keep giving these opportunities, and so I mentioned earlier, and the phrase I used was cream will rise to the top. One of these kids is going to pop through, and they're going to get the and what we don't want to do is be the club that doesn't give them that opportunity. I think that's the tricky part, right? Where you're finding a balance of, do you throw them in too early? Do you throw them when they're ready? I still think a kid that's going to be there, you should be able to come out to an MLS Next Pro game, watch 90 minutes and go, that kid's really special.
Yeah.
That kid stands out. And that's what we had like this year. Now, it wasn't a homegrown, but we had a Felipe Andrade who was from Brazil, who came in, young kid who got blocked down there, came in, played like 8 games with our second team. But you watched them in every game and you're like, that kid is special. It stands out. And I think that will start happening with our group. But there'd be nothing better than our guys. We're in talks. It hasn't been finalized yet, so I can't. But we're in talks with a couple of homegrowns to come back when they finish college now, which is a different pathway. We've been here 4 years. These kids who were just not quite ready have now gone and got 4 years, and now we think they might have an opportunity to kind of break through now with 4 years of college experience on them. So there's different pathways for these guys, and we're really looking forward to one of them just coming through and people going, that's our guy.
Pat, as we close, are you happy? Are you comfortable? I know you talked about Canada, you talked about Vancouver. I'm sure you have opportunities sent to you on a regular basis. Is this project still something you are passionate about?
Houston is my home. So and I talked a little bit about, just got off a call with this marketing group, and that's one thing that comes across clear when they say, like, well, how do you feel? Mm-hmm. I really love this city. My daughter was born here. I think it's a really interesting city in the sense that all these transplants come to Houston. I think when I played here it was like 4 million people. Now it's almost doubled in size.
It's grown, yeah.
In 20 years. It's insane. But all these people are in the same experience that I've been in. That you come here and you have this sense of community in this city, and people are proud that they're from Houston. No, I don't hear that. When I go to Austin, I don't hear people go, I'm from Austin or I'm from Dallas. But when people are in Houston, they're like, I'm from Houston. I'm not from Dallas. I'm not from Austin. And that resonates with me. I have, and maybe that's a little bit of my Canadian side of me, but it resonates with me. And I love this city. I care about the club. I'm fortunate. I have an owner that really supports what we're doing, and believes in the city and believes in this club, and has invested a lot in the club. And I think we're on the right track. Last year was massively disappointing for all of us, because I thought we had a lot of momentum from 23 and 24. But I'm confident we'll get back there again here in 26.
Lastly, I'll ask you, Coach Ben Olsen, you're happy with the way he's been dealing with what he's been handed? He's very charismatic. I think he's very thoughtful. Is this the man that you continue to battle with moving into 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way you hit it too is I thought he did the best he could with what he was dealt with. And when I say dealt with, like if the buck falls right with me, like we didn't get that center back that would have pushed us over the line in the first window. We did in the second with Antonio Carlos, and you saw a massive difference defensively. And had we had that guy in for the get-go, I think we thought we'd have Eric healthy, and then beside him, could he work with a Pablo Ortiz? Could he work with an Ethan Bartlow, a Femi Odusu? Could those guys compete with an experienced guy beside him? But Eric unfortunately couldn't stay healthy, and then for us, we should have seen that sooner before that window closed and said, okay, let's bring in Antonio Carlos wasn't available, but that type of player, and then I think we probably could have got through and been a playoff team. But again, I still think overall it was a cycle. We sold two super important pieces in Coco and Mikel in our sport. Outside of what PSG, Real Madrid, and as we say, the Seattle Sounders. You sell your best players. So I mean that's what the league, that's what football's about. So we just needed to do a better job of reacting to it when it happened.
Pat, it's always an honor. I really appreciate your time. I know we'll get questions from this interview, but I know you're always accessible. I'll let you have the last word, and I think you said it well. You're excited about the future. You understand where the club is at, but what should fans be expecting of the Houston Dynamo in this upcoming World Cup year?
I think a winning team, putting a winning team in a team that you can be proud of. I mean, I love the way we play. I love the way Ben Olsen has set this team up. We keep the ball. We try to disorganize opponents with it. We're a team. We embrace our weather advantage that we have. And then I think the nice piece and something that I know the coaching staff have been working on hard in the off season to try to work on this is how do we recover the ball quickly. And the last piece is I expect us to kind of improve our squad. We need to improve our squad, and I know we will. And there'll be some players there, I think, that will be really intriguing for our fan base.
Awesome. Pat, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for your time today, sir. Good luck in the end of 2025 and, of course, going into 2026. Pat, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for having me on.